What's the big
I,
driver?
I
What's the
think
point?
it's every day just being a better version of yourself, fulfilling your destiny in this world. Go out there and inspire and lead other people. So that's really ultimately what I'm trying to do in this world, for my team, for my family, my kids, for the greater community.
John, tell me, what would the world be like? What do you see as possible if you imagine everybody, like just society and culture at large, had a general practice of getting up, meditating, working out, breathing, doing the affirmations, expressing gratitude, being cold, and then getting on with stuff that they were absolutely passionate about and they love? What kind of a world would we create? What would be possible? What do you see?
By making that change and that impact every morning on yourself, you can actually go out and be a better human being, that you can affect other people, that you can invest in your health so you're around for a long time to come. I think you can just be a generally just better, more chilled, relaxed individual that can roll with stuff rather than reacting, getting angry, stressed, all that sort of stuff.
And that's a wrap. All right. Jon Hollenberg, superb.
Thank you, sir.
Great show, man. Great show. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gamechanger Project. Gamechanger Project brings you videos, interviews, documentaries straight from the heroes on the front line of the radical transformation of society and culture for the future of life on Earth. I'm your host, Patrick Woodcraft. It's my job to find the most extraordinary human beings I can get my hands on and dig out what they know, what they've learned, what they've uncovered about the biggest challenges facing humanity and what they're doing about it and what anybody can do to get involved. Today, I'm so delighted to introduce to you Jon Hollenberg. Jon is a businessman, he's a father, he's an athlete, an extraordinary human being. Jon, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Awesome to connect, Patrick. Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much. So Jon, you were introduced to us by a friend of ours in Melbourne, Mel Collings, and I'm so grateful to her. And I've had a little bit a look at, we had a bit of a conversation and had a look at some of the things that you're up to. I'd love to dive in and hear a little bit more about how you came to be. I mean, obviously, fit and running a business that's doing really well and taking care of a family. And there's so many responsibilities that I want to hear how you manage all of that. Because, for me as a father and an entrepreneur and and an athlete and like a lot of, there's a lot of similarities on our journey. It's a lot to manage. It's a lot to try and fit into 24 hours. And we've got to eat and sleep and have a life as well. It's like, wow, right? But before we dive into that, I'd love to hear a little bit of your background and what's brought you to where you are right now. Tell us, introduce yourself.
Yeah, awesome. So as you said, Jon Hollenberg, I head up a website design development agency, and we're physically based here at the awesome Gold Coast. I lead a team of 22 people.
Wow.
And we build great looking, high performing websites. So we're known as one of Australia's leading WordPress design development agencies. Typically, in a project, we can double a client's traffic and inquiries in under 6 months, and deliver a site that they are just super duper proud of. So strong focus on design, all the tech stuff, just getting great outcomes for our clients.
Beautiful. So that's the business now. Tell me about family. What's happening at home? What's that look like?
Father of two, been married for, thank you, yeah, 8 and 6, been married for 10 years in October. So it's something that I'm very, very proud of. Take the responsibility of being a father, probably the most important job in the world, but also being a great husband. So our wife and I have always prioritized ourselves or our relationship, because I think like the philosophy they've taken is, at the end of the day, if we're not strong, then we can't be great parents to our kids. So that's where we will schedule date nights and we will prioritize us over the kids, which in turn just allows us to have a much better relationship and be better people for them. So.
Beautiful. We got exactly the same philosophy here. Absolutely.
Mate, I think we've had a couple of conversations now, and we're very much kindred spirits.
Yeah, I feel that too.
Yeah.
I feel that. Tell me a bit more about the background. Tell me a story. Where are you from? How'd you? I mean, Jon Hollenberg, Jon Hollenberg. You know, that's not a.
That's not an Aussie name. My actual formal name is Johannes Hollenberg.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So I am the sixth Johannes. So family tradition is the eldest son is called Johannes, which is basically, Dutch for Jonathan or John.
Mm-hmm.
My son's name is Johannes as well. We call him Jan. Every second person or every second male in Holland is called Jan.
Not just Holland, I mean, the whole Northern Europe. My wife's from
100%. Yeah.
I don't know. I've lost count of how many Jans and Jons and Jannes and
Yanni.
Yanni.
So that's a really nice tradition that we've been able to follow through. So my son's the seventh Johannes. There's no pressure on his shoulders.
What's it mean? Do you know, John? Like John the Baptist, I guess. I'm not sure. What's the?
Yeah, I'm sure there's some sort of Hebrew link that I actually don't know the answer to. I'm not too sure. So where was I going with that? I got distracted with names. Background. It is a Dutch name. So grew up down in Melbourne. So my dad was an IT project manager, and he got moved around a lot. So I think I attended maybe 7 or 8 primary schools over the years, which is pretty interesting. Probably hated it at the time, but I think it teaches you some really great skills around like resilience and adaptability. So, you come into a cliquey group of young kids and, you've got to adapt and fit in. So I think learning those skills has probably served me, generally well in life and obviously in business and being able to establish rapport and all that sort of stuff. So we lived in a whole bunch of interesting places like Bougainville Island there in Papua New Guinea. We lived over in the UK for a couple of years, spent a whole bunch of time in Europe. Lived in Queanbeyan, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. So we shifted around a lot, which is I think gave good perspective on the world, we sort of settled there when I started high school. Did high school there in Melbourne. And then from that, I studied a Bachelor of Multimedia there at Monash University. Yep. And I was just really interested in business. So, the world of websites and digital was all sort of emerging at that time around the sort of 2000s. And I started like just knocking up websites for, family and friends, and set up this little business in my bedroom called Subconscious Media because I thought that was a pretty cool name. And,
that's cool.
I got my mate who was this awesome illustrator to, design this sort of third eye logo, and it was all pretty cool. But I was managed to make a little bit of cash on the side. I then out of university got thrust into a business, and this was probably one of the, you talk a lot about mentors and teachers in your life.
Absolutely.
This guy here, he was running a small business at the time, so he sort of came from an advertising background. I got the job, and he literally sent me out on my first sales call on my first day, where he's like, these people have expressed some interest, go and see them and figure out what they want. And I literally had to just fly by the seat of my pants, zero training, and failed horribly, learned a whole heap of mistakes. I pretty much did that for like the next 2 or 3 years consistently. And like literally you would walk into these offices because we had an appointment setter, right?
Yes.
And he was working off like a list, this appointment setter, just tee up the appointments, and then I'd go out there and just figure out what they want and try and pitch them. And I'd walk into these like big businesses, that were probably doing, manufacturing businesses in Melbourne, 10, 20, $50 million businesses. Wow. And it'd be like CEO just sitting behind the desk with his arms crossed. And I've got 5 minutes to establish some rapport and get a bit of a brief out of him and all that sort of stuff. So just amazing apprenticeship out in the real world, learn about sales.
Yeah.
And then from that was just hooked on business ever since
Yeah.
then.
Awesome.
That business ultimately, didn't work out, and the owner of the business ended up going to get a job,
Yeah.
and then we had a very, very successful corporate career. But essentially, he gave me the opportunity to say, look, you can either, I'm gonna wind the business up. We've got a handful of existing clients. You can either go and get a job, or you can take over the clients and see how you go. And he essentially gave me, I think,
I couldn't make it work. Maybe you can.
yeah. So he gave me a chunk of the business. He just said,
Yeah.
here's 30-40% of the business. And so in my mind, it's sort of like, well, I'll give it a crack. And if it doesn't work out, then I can go get a job in 3 or 4 months' time anyway, right? So as long as I make enough money to pay my rent and put some fuel in the car, then happy days. So then continued on that for another year or two. Another business partner, so he'd sold some equity to another business partner that came in, and there's some funkiness around that, where he was rocking in a couple hours a week, and I was the one working the 12-hour days.
Yeah,
so I
sure.
thought there was a very unfair imbalance there. So ultimately I said, no, I'm going to go out and do this for myself. And that's what I did 13 years ago, starting this business 5x5.
What year was that?
That was 2006.
Yep. Unreal. So that, obviously brings us right up to, you've been running 5x5 ever since.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He says the two most important skills in business, if you want to be successful in business, it's sales and leadership. Mm-hmm. Right? You've got to learn sales and you've got to learn leadership. And if you get those two, your business can work. Without either one of those, or certainly without both of those, business is not going to. And it's so interesting how many, super successful business owners, yourself, myself, and then other, people that I look up to in business started out in sales.
Yeah.
That's learn to sell, and then they get a team, and then they've got to learn to lead. And those two big hurdles seem to be really, really common.
Yeah, and then so the leadership journey's been interesting, because then I stayed small for many years. So I was like this freelancer, just sitting in my spare bedroom and my boardies, building websites, and I was making good money,
living the dream.
It was all right. Like I just had a very simple lifestyle business where I could surf and do all that, and I just disappeared to Thailand for a week, and as long as I could find a bit of Wi-Fi, then I could still answer my emails and do all that sort of stuff. But it wasn't very sustainable. So the real catalyst for change came obviously after marriage, and then the impending birth of my eldest daughter, where I was putting in some hours. I was working 12, 14-hour days, but I could get away with it because I was young and we didn't have kids or anything like that. But then my wife said, you realize that you will move out of our home-based office because you can't be here anymore, and that you will take 2 or 3 weeks off to help me, with our brand new newborn and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, okay, I better make some radical change here to get some layers in the business. So I employed my first staff member. That failed horribly. I had no experience in managing people. Learned a whole bunch of lessons from that. And then that first staff member ended up leaving, on good terms, but moved on to other opportunities. And then from that, I employed some more people. That sort of didn't work out a whole bunch the second time. But then from that, these mistakes, I figured out really, like, culture is the bedrock of everything that we're doing here in the organization. So I need to work really hard at building an amazing culture where people actually want to come into work and do amazing things. Nice. With other amazing people.
Beautiful. Tell me a bit more. I mean, culture, and I want to get into your personal life a bit more too, is, being a dad and being an athlete, surfing and mountain running and all the other fun stuff you do. But I want to finish off on this business bit first because I'm really fascinated. You mentioned, culture is super important. And right now, 22 on your team. You've got a whole bunch here in Australia. You've got people all around the world. It's a global team.
Yep.
And that, obviously having people around the world allows you to be able to employ more Aussies because your organization becomes more profitable. And I think, in business, obviously profit is so important, right? You've got to be able to manage cash flow. We've got to be able to have your profitability over long term as well. And there's this idea, especially from Wall Street, but in big business, where the purpose of the business is to generate profit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so crazy because absolutely profit is so important. But just like, if a business isn't profitable, it's not going to survive. No question about it. We've got to make profit. Just like if I don't drink water, I'm not going to survive for very long. But I don't eat food. But the purpose of my life isn't to drink water. It's just a function that I have to do to sustain my life, right?
Yeah.
I think it's exactly the same with business. The business itself has to be profitable or it's out of the game, but that's not its purpose. I think business can have and should have a much higher purpose than just purely making money. That's just a function of what it has to do. So when you look at that, when you think about 5x5, your business, obviously it's got to be profitable, and then you've got to run a smart operation.
Yeah.
But when you consider the bigger purpose of your life and your organization, tell me how you look at that.
Yeah, well, there's a few layers to that. So the first 100% that you're not making profit, then you can't pay your rent and everything else, right?
Yeah, got to do that.
So that is just that is a practical reality of life.
Yeah.
So how I've really approached that is like really being able to, so we've got some key sort of leaders in the team, really like working hard with them to make sure they're showing the best version of themselves. So we've got a really young team. So that's where, the lessons that I've learned and all that sort of stuff, I get tremendous amount of satisfaction being able to sort of guide them and mentor them. And the satisfaction comes when I can see them flourishing, and just doing amazing things out there in the world. So there's definitely an element of that, just seeing other people around you succeed.
Yeah.
So, then like another big driver is around working on myself. So being a business owner is the ultimate self-development course that you can do in life, right? So if there's some blockages or some gaps or whatever, the light will continue to shine on that until you deal with that, right?
Yeah.
And then you can't really transcend around that. So that's like probably my purpose in life is to be the best version of myself. And then that obviously flows through to everything else that I'm doing around being an amazing husband, an amazing father, a member of society, being able to give back. And I think if you can sort of do all that stuff, then the net result is building intergenerational wealth. So, being able to, provide for my family, my extended family, for the community and things that we're passionate about, so that, we've got options that we can do good things in the world and we can give back.
Yeah. So tell me more about the contribution and give back, because you mentioned, being a good citizen, you mentioned society and culture, you mentioned, contribution. There's a whole bunch of clues there. Let's jump into that. Tell me directly what that looks like for you.
Yeah, look, and by no means it's perfect, Patrick, in the fact that we're still figuring it out.
Sure.
Business is hard, right? Business, just putting dollars in a bank account is difficult, right? Yeah. And you look at the sheer numbers of businesses, and it's something like 1 in 100 that lasts that 10 years, right? So being an entrepreneur is an amazing journey. And essentially, you're magicians. Like, you're creating something from nothing, right? Yeah. And that's why, like, these people are my peeps. Like, they're out there in the trenches every single day, and that's why I love to be surrounded by these people. So to go back to your original question, that is something that we're working more on around. Like, it's been a lot more ad hoc in the fact that there's some local charities that we partnered with locally here on the Gold Coast around homelessness. We're members of B1G1.
Cool.
But in terms of being able to go out and impact on a greater scale, like that's really like the next, I think, big rock that I'm going to be moving in the organization.
Awesome.
And really like just embedding that into everything that we do. There's amazing organizations out there. I've got a couple of mates up in Brizzy, Ben and Harvey from Inspire.
Oh, yeah.
They're accountants, and they call themselves Accountants for Good, and everything that they do is around contribution. Right, awesome. They're very active members of B1G1.
Yeah. So
B1G1 inspiring
for people listening. It's business buy one give one.
Yep.
Business for Good with Paul Dunn, which is an extraordinary organisation where businesses can get involved, and then just a percentage of every, or a certain amount from every transaction, goes directly to a cause that you nominate. And he's got hundreds of different causes. Amazing. I mean, Paul's such an inspiration.
Yeah,
to me,
amazing guy.
Human being, and has built such a remarkable organisation around that concept of giving.
Yep. And you can be really specific about the contributions that you make. So you talked about these micro impacts where, say someone buys a ticket to a seminar or whatever, right? You can weave that into the narrative of that purchase, where it's just, you've just contributed a day's worth of life-saving water or whatever, amazing. Right? So it makes it a lot more tangible.
All right, tell you what, I want to shift gears a bit. Enough with business. Do you remember that movie with Mel Gibson? What was it called? We Were Soldiers. And there's this scene where, Mel Gibson's the old army general, and the young soldiers in the church praying, and they're going to go to war the next day. And then the young recruit, the young soldier asks the old general, he says, "How do you do it? How do you manage being a father and being a soldier?" Right? It's like, because I'm going to go to war, and I've got my wife and my baby here. And Mel Gibson, the old general, in his wisdom, he puts his hand on his shoulder and he says, "I think, you remember this scene? Says, being better at one makes me better at the other."
Yeah.
And I just went, oh man, I've really hung on to that, because as a business owner, it takes everything you've got, as you know. And as a father, it takes everything you've got and a bit more. Talk about personal development through business, absolutely.
Yeah.
But being a parent, it takes everything you've got and more. And then actually being present to your partner, taking care of your husband, taking care of your wife, taking care of your life partner, takes everything you've got. Right, and then you want to be a member of society and contribute there. Then you want to actually take care of your body and your own health and have time for yourself, for your meditation and your own practices and being an athlete. And that takes everything you've got. It's like, how do you approach all that? How do you do that? And I'd love to hear. So 2 questions here. One is how do you approach that? How do you look at it? And the other thing is let's go through some of the things that you're actually doing, and kind of share a bit of that as well. What you're up to and what you're into.
Yeah, awesome. So the general philosophy here is, you get on a plane and they do the safety briefing and say, if you're traveling with infants or children, we do have an emergency, then the oxygen masks will pop down from the roof.
Yep.
And it's really important that you fit your own oxygen mask first before fitting that to minors, right? Because obviously, if you're not around, then it's going to be very difficult to be able to look after them. And so this is really around fitting your own oxygen mask. And I think that's where, certainly in the entrepreneurial world, people really struggle. They're working hard. There's such tremendous pressure on their shoulders that health is something that does get put or get sidelined. And so that's, I've always been just a very active person. And for me, always been a very morning person, right? So I love the early mornings, the stillness, just being able to be by myself. For me, there's tremendous renewal, and the fact that it's a clean start. So regardless of what happened the day before, like this is a new opportunity. And what the morning allows you to do is set the tone for the day ahead.
Beautiful.
So I've got a routine that I run through. You happy for me to share that routine? Or
jump in? Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So
I'm really curious.
So there's a couple of things to that, and probably one of the before I get into the actual sort of mechanics behind that, one of the key distinctions that I've made is around sleep. So
Okay.
I'm the first to admit that I have compromised my sleep. I've been doing these long hours for so long. A lot of the time I'd be working into the evening, looking at these horrible blue lit screens, our phones, our laptops.
Yeah.
And then I'd get into bed and I was like, why the heck can't I sleep? I'm sitting there all just like wide awake, wired. Yeah. And as I've grown and scaled the team, I've got a very active brain. So for me, switching off is not so easy. So I'll be sitting down, I'll be processing the day and then all the stuff. I've got to get it done in the morning and I never gave myself permission to actually switch off. So
there's a couple of ways to handle that, right?
Yes.
And drugs and alcohol obviously is a common one. How do you handle it?
Obviously drugs and alcohol is not a very good sustainable solution. It'll probably, so the actual alcohol is actually really bad for sleep. It actually contributes to the quality of your REM sleep. And so as I've identified,
get you in quicker, but then
it's not deep sleep. So there's some amazing books out there, and I won't go into too much mechanics. There's a guy, Matthew Walker. He wrote a book called Why We Sleep on the New York Times bestseller list at the moment. Just a very eloquent communicator, but it goes into a lot of sleep science, which I didn't know about. So, the key to good sleep is actually getting sunlight exposure early on in the morning, right? Yeah. So that red light. So that's one of my techniques where I'll actually go and we'll, watch the sunrise up over the hill, right? So that is signaling to the body to wake up, to stimulate melatonin production in the body. So that then builds and builds and builds over the day. And obviously in the evening, it'll reach a certain critical mass and point, and that's the signal to sleep, to shut off. So you've got to start that in the morning, right? You've got to start that process. And then just simple things like making sure your room's nice and cool, blue light.
What about blue light? What about it?
Just no devices after sundown. It's just toxic. So that ties into the melatonin production. So the thing with blue light is you absorb light through your eyes, and by looking into this
and your skin.
And your skin,
and the pineal gland that's in the middle of your brain is light sensitive as well. Like, what's up with that?
100%. So essentially, like you looking into this blue screen, your body actually thinks it's the middle of the day. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, right? So that will delay that critical melatonin production and just offset that from say your normal sleep time's 10 o'clock. That'll offset that, but almost up to 3 hours. So 1 o'clock. So that's been a big thing, and I spend my life looking at these devices, getting the actual blue blocker or the orange blockers, the orange glasses. They will cut out that light frequency. It'll block about 60% the orange ones. So using those in the evening. Our house
I got mine on my desk. I know they're on the.
There you go. Nice. Yeah. Our house is not very well lit. It uses those just horrible high efficiency white bulbs. So we'll just switch off all the lights and light some candles.
Yeah.
I'll then
let me share on that one, because we were doing candles as well when we started learning about this probably a couple of years ago. I mean, we chucked the telly out 10 years ago. That was the best thing we did for the family. Yeah. And we're really strict on devices, sunrise to sunset. Yeah. Right? And like you were on at that morning time, I want to hear more about what you do there. But then after sunset, the whole family will come out in the balcony and watch the sunset together.
Gold.
There's no devices after that. But we don't turn the lights on in the house either. We had candles, and we found out that the paraffin from the candles was toxic as well. So we went, all right, let's watch out for that one. So then we started with beeswax candles, which are amazing. It's a beautiful scent, but the cost of that, if you're lighting a house every night, we're just going, this is nuts. Yeah. And we've got salt lamps. We've got those big salt lamps around the house.
Wow.
And we just flick on a few salt lamps. Awesome. And it gives a really nice, kind of red-orange glow. If you look at our place from outside, it's like it's just glowing you know, orange and red inside. It's beautiful.
The neighbours are
Yeah.
wondering what
What's going on?
demonic ceremonies
Yeah,
you're running in there.
all lit up.
Yeah,
But I tell you what, I
yeah.
mean, I've noticed a difference for myself. I want to hear if you've noticed a difference as well. But in the kids, like we used to, you know, you have your lights on, you're like, go to bed, go to sleep. It's
Yeah, yeah,
bedtime. It's an hour
yeah,
past bedtime. It's 3 hours. Like, why aren't you going to sleep? We don't have any of that conversation,
no,
in probably, you know, at least 12, 18 months.
yeah,
Because sunset, we watch it together, and then, you know, we're having a meal and we, you know, clean up, and they just go to bed, and then they
yeah,
just go to sleep.
yeah,
They just,
yeah,
and they get up in the morning, they're like, we're ready to go. We don't need to drag them out of bed.
yeah.
I'm like, this is how it should be, right?
100%. Well, that's what we've been doing for eons, right? And then that all changed when Edison invented the light bulb. You know?
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's not until you question that stuff you're like, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So by being just more aware of that, it's definitely helped my sleep. So I guess my point there is the key to an amazing day is having an amazing night's sleep, because obviously crappy night's sleep, typically you're not feeling great.
Yeah.
Being lethargic.
Not going to be.
So, yeah. So I'll get up. I'll make my bed, and
Nice.
you know, it's a bit of talk around this, and it might seem a little bit trivial. Ideally, I won't make the bed while my wife is still in there. I'll wait for her to get out of bed.
You're often up first.
Yeah, correct. Or we sort of, we'll raise it. It just depends on what's going on. So if she's got an early start or whatever. But so this is, you know, it's around that, you know, your bed is your resting place, and if it's messy, then typically other things in your life will be messy. And for me, it's sort of like just racking up a win straight off the bat, where it's something that you can totally control. You can just say, "Yep, awesome! I got a win already," right? And you're only a couple of minutes into the day.
Yeah.
I'll then try and get moving. So I don't have a lot of time to say if I'm dropping off kids or whatever. I've really just tried to set this up for maximum efficiency, where I've literally I've built a chin-up bar in the backyard. So even if I've got 15, 20 minutes, right, I could get out 50 pull-ups, 5 sets of 10. Doesn't take that long. But what I want to do is just get the body moving, body weight, calisthenics. Usually the kids will come up, so they'll rise with the sun as well. And this for me is the most beautiful part of that, where they'll come up and they'll muck around in the backyard. So the dog will be up there, 2 kids will be up there. We're swinging on the rings, we're mucking around on the parallel bars, doing handstands and all that sort of stuff. And it's sort of, I guess it's teaching them some really good habits as well, where they see what a good start to the day actually looks like. And the really awesome thing that warms my heart is, you know, say I'm away traveling or whatever, they'll actually go up into the backyard by themselves. Like, you know,
Dad. That's when
that's it. Yeah. They're just doing they're hanging upside down on the rings.
So good.
So I'm making sure that I'm in bare feet when I'm up there as well. So
how come?
it's just there's a couple of things. So it's that physical connection with the earth. There's certainly in winter, you know, like the grass is wet and it's cold.
It's cold.
But I watch my kids, they'll stand at the top of the step and they'll suck themselves up to run across the grass. But it gives you that very intimate connection with, you know, where we've come from and where we'll ultimately end up. So for me, it's just a little bit of perspective, but also, you know, you look at electrical earthing and all that sort of stuff. Who was it? It was a guy that runs a wellness center up in Brizzy who's telling this story around this whole generation of people in cities that live in towers. So say, you know, you're up on the 20th floor, you live in a unit, a 2-bedroom apartment. You get up, get ready for work, you go down the lift, you hop into your car in the basement, you drive to work and you work in a city CBD-based tower or whatever. You drive into that car park, you get out, you jump in your lift and you go up to level 30, your office, and then you do the opposite order coming home, and then on the weekends you chill out and you watch your Netflix. these people are never, ever touching the earth.
Yep.
There is no physical connection. There is nothing but man-made barriers between their body and the earth, which is yeah. So,
have you heard any research or any data on that, on what that's creating, or just
no hard data? But I don't know. There's a whole bunch of people out there that
some ideas
feel
about
very
it.
passionate about that. They talk about that. Essentially, our bodies are full of electrical signals. The cells, the mitochondria, all that sort of stuff. It makes sense that you need to, earth that energy. For me, it's just a little bit more of a connection with the environment, feeling the dirt between your toes, the blades of grass, the beads of water, all that sort of stuff. So, whether the science behind it, I don't know the exact details. But
sure. We're going to have to check this out, because I bet there is.
Yeah, 100%.
So important.
Yeah.
What about the cold? You mentioned cold grass. Do you do much with cold?
Yeah. So I've got one step before the cold, Patrick, which is a bit of breathing. So this definitely helps with the cold. So I'll do a priming technique. We mentioned red light before. The sun's coming up over the hill after I finish my movement. I'll do some nose breathing. So obviously that's energizing me. That's cleansing mucous membrane. So all through winter, I can breathe just nice and free through my nose. Consistently doing that breath work. It's switching all the brain synapses on. It's oxygenating the brain. It's a priming technique. So for those who haven't got the video, you've got your arms in the air. This is taken from the big man Tony Robbins. And essentially you're breathing quite heavily. You go right up and down. You do 3 sets of 30 with that.
Yep.
And then in between, you're doing some very still, slow breaths, being aware of the sounds around you. You really, awareness of your body, any sort of blockages or pain points, not judging, just being aware of that. You'll then, at the end of the breathing, hands on your heart, really try and breathe into your heart. Be thankful for your heart, grateful for your heart. As long as it beats, you're alive. And there is life in you. You didn't have to work for your heart. It was given to you. And then some gratitude around, my kids that are probably standing there next to me still giggling away, or think Dad's a bit crazy because he's doing this heavy panting breathing stuff. I'll maybe think of some team members, or a client or a dog or whatever. So just express some gratitude. And then do some visualization. So with the visualization, what is the one thing that I'm really trying to get done today? Is really try and step into that feeling that I've actually achieved and accomplished that. And try and experience those physical emotions in my body, because it makes it feel really real, and putting it out to the universe and law of attraction and all that sort of stuff just hones my focus and attention for the day.
How important do you think that process has been to your success?
Yes, like 100%. I like to think all elements have, but for me, the power of the breath, and I've done a lot of deep dives into longer breathing sessions, circular breathing, laying on the ground, getting high as a kite, out of body experiences, visualizations, all that sort of stuff.
If anyone hasn't done any like profound breath work, transformational breath work, or what have you done? What would you suggest? Because I've done. We were living up in Bali 3.5 years, and you get access to just like all the kind of craziness up there. But some of the breath work sessions that I did it changed my life absolutely. To know that you can have that kind of an experience without drugs, you wouldn't believe it, right?
Better than any chemical I've ever put in my body, right? So like the breath is the ultimate teacher. It will always give you what you need, and every experience is a different one. In terms of the mechanics, you literally, you lay on the ground. A lot of people actually don't breathe. probably, you say I breathe every day, right? But is that conscious breathing? You know, are you using the full range of breath? Are you fully oxygenating your system? You know, the breath can be a tremendous coping mechanism. A lot of special forces use it in highly stressful situations in terms of box breathing. A lot of high performance teams will use that to get into flow. So just going back to like those deep dives, there's a real level of intimacy around that where people have these profound experiences, and they're sometimes great, they're sometimes very scary,
Sounds excruciatingly painful.
100%. Yeah, physically, emotionally, it'll bring up. Yeah, it'll always, you know, bring up any blockages in your life.
Yeah. But always exhilarating afterwards. I mean, just
100%. Yeah. Well,
so with that into the mechanics of it, who would you suggest, if anyone's who's interested in that journey, you got any where you point people to?
Yeah, I've got a couple of buddies here at the coast. They're Shane and Angelina Saunders.
Perfect. Awesome.
Shane,
love those guys.
You know, those guys. Shane's ex Elite Forces PT, so he was training a lot of like SAS divers. So like badass fit dudes, in highly stressful situations, and he just saw the impact that both breath and cold has on these people, and has pretty much built a business off the back of that.
So their website's Breathe Me, right? BreatheMe.com.
Correct. Yeah.
People can check them out there. Yep. Anyone else that you'd point to?
Another guy, Ben Murphy. He runs a wellness center there in Brisbane called Cooler Health. So
we'll check it out.
Yeah. He does a lot of stuff with cold as well. Does the
Cooler, Kula?
Yeah, Kula. Correct. Yep. Yeah. So we did a breathing
naturopath massage. Awesome.
Yeah, we did a breathing session last week. So we were at a conference around flow, and he facilitated the breathing session. This was actually slightly different. So we done a lot of breath work where you lay on the ground with 20 or 30 other people, and the breathing's just right, and you do that for an hour, and you get all the effects that we spoke about. We did this. Yeah, like if you're walking past on the street, you'll be like, "What is going on here?"
It is difficult, like to sustain that for an hour. Your brain switches on, you tune out, and you forget, and then
you fall asleep.
It's important to be in a safe environment where people have got you and they're trained in how to do that, and how to facilitate that and take care of you in that situation.
So that's what we did. So we did this buddy breathing, right, where it was half an hour, and essentially, like the observer is helping that individual breathe to keep the rhythm, the cadence, and the depth, to work through any sort of physical niggles, all that sort of stuff. So I'd always been, the person on the ground wrapped up with the mask over your head and under a blanket. When you observe someone else breathe, there's a tremendous intimacy around that, because you sort of see the hero's journey that they're going through, where they're going through the bit of the dark spot, and then they come out the other side of it. Super interesting. So that was pretty profound experience that I'd had last week that I hadn't experienced before. That's awesome. And then we jumped in an ice bath, which is probably a good lead into the cold.
Tell me about that, because this is super popular now. I mean, athletes are doing it. There's lots of different people talking about ice baths, and a lot of people think it's really uncomfortable and not pleasant at all, which can be true. But what's up with that? Cold thermogenesis. Well,
yeah. So there's a physical component to it, but for me, like, this is more psychological. Mm-hmm. So you hop in cold water. So usually these ice baths are just athletic sort of recovery pools. So they're like a kiddie's pool, but quite high, and you can fit 3 or 4 people in them. They fill them with 30, 40 bags of ice, and the water gets down to like 1 or 2 degrees. And you hop in, and the first minute is the tricky bit, right? And most people, you imagine you hop in the cold, and it's very shallow breathing, right? You go, and so what that forces you to do is to control your reaction to that, to go to your breath, to steady yourself, and work through that, and by just doing some breath counting and controlling what is a very, very stressful situation, everyone can get through it, right? So I've seen teenage girls do this, right up to big badass dudes that have complete freakouts and all that sort of stuff, right? But everyone gets through it, and most people can do 3 to 5 minutes in the ice, and they come out, and it's just euphoric experience where the whole body is alive, and they've done something that seemed completely impossible. So that's the psychological component for me. It's just like hopping in the cold shower every morning. So, here at the Gold Coast during summer, not an issue, right? It's like it's warm, but in winter, it's still cool, right? The water's probably 8-10 degrees coming out of the tap, and it's still fresh. So, I'll fight with myself some days where I'll turn the tap on and I'll be like, get in there. And it'll take me a minute or two. And
I did the same thing this morning. I don't want to. I'm already cold. It's enough. I don't.
Yeah. So you'll have this like battle going on. And then anyway, I was like, get in there. And
come on.
Yeah. So I get in there, same deal, breathe through it. I picture like an inner fire, right? So this is what Wim Hof talks about, where it's just like
Wim Hof, the Iceman.
Yeah, that's it. He's got all these world records, and he's climbed Mount Everest in his board shorts, and his longest sustained swim under pack ice and all this sort of stuff, right? And you come out and you just buzz. So if all those things that I spoke about haven't switched you on, that cold shower will literally take you from 0 to 100 in under 2 minutes flat. You're saving water. You're having very efficient showers. But you come out just feeling amazing.
Yeah. And there's a lot of hard science on that too. I mean, cold thermogenesis. From a psychological point of view, accessing flow state, absolutely. Being able to control your breathing, activating your sympathetic or your central nervous system to be in that kind of state where it's not reactive, it's not overreacting to stimulus, but you're actually in control and consciously moving through that. There's the breath component. There's all the little muscles around all your blood vessels. We can work out every other muscle in our body, but those blood vessels, the muscles that control your blood pressure and the flow of blood, when you get really cold, they contract hard, and they force all the blood from your extremities back into, keep the vital organs warm.
Protect the organs,
right? But that's the only time they get to flex. And if they don't flex, they don't really, like any muscle, use it or lose it, right? It keeps your blood pressure under control, keeps your muscles strong. And then, of course, there's the mitochondria, which you mentioned mito before, but that's creating brown adipose tissue. So we've got fat, which is normal, like white fat, but then there's brown fat, as it looks brown under a microscope, which is really high in mitochondria, which produces ATP, which is energy for life. It's how we do everything. Is stimulated through cold. If you don't feel cold, then your mito is just going down all the time, and that's essentially part of your, what generates your vital force or your life force energy. There's so much to this.
So apart from that, just one thing is like, if you can do that every morning, then all the other crap that comes your day comes at you during the day. You're like, whatever. You're like, that's easy compared to what I've already done. So you walk around like a bit of a badass all day as well.
If I can do this, I can do anything.
That's it.
Right?
That's it. Yeah.
Unreal. All right, cool. So you get up in the morning, you've got some quiet time, that peaceful moment. I remember Wayne Dyer talking years and years ago, bless his soul. He was saying, you wake up 3 or 4 in the morning, hours before sunrise, the whole world's still asleep, and God's not too busy. He can easily take your call. Like, it's so easy to connect with spirit at that time. And, you kind of get up, you realize you're awake, and then you go, I'm just going to go back to sleep. And you hear that little voice going, don't go back to sleep. I do not go back to sleep. This is the magic time. And you get up and you honor that time. So then you're out, you're working out, doing calisthenics, doing training, you're doing your Tony Robbins priming, then you get into breath work. Then there's gratitude. Then there's visualization, which is setting your day up for success. You've already made your bed, so you've already had a win. And then you're in the cold. Boom! Shock to the system, but without the panic and without the shock. It's actually staying present through that, staying calm through that, which is really the key to it, right?
Correct.
And after that, like, you know, if you can do that, you can do anything. So what's next? And probably from the point of view of not your typical business day, but a fun day, like a weekend or time when you've got time to yourself to go and do what you love to do. Tell me more about that.
Well, it'd probably be like getting in the ocean. So, you know, I'm a keen surfer. My son's at an age now where I'm teaching him to surf, and there's just this tremendous pleasure that comes like seeing him catch a wave. It's probably better than any wave that I've ever caught in my life, right? Where I can see him and he's got his stoke on and we're high-fiving and it's beautiful. Like it's cold. I'm out there in the crystal clear water and that's gold. So
where do you surf?
Down at Currumbin. So usually at the alley, you know, and it's just pushing him on waves on his little foamy. So he's still learning, but you know, he's 6.
6, yeah.
Yeah.
My little guy's just turned 9, and I grew up riding freestyle BMX and got into motocross and super bikes and all these downhill mountain bikes. And Jack's just started hitting some gaps and hitting some drops, and I pushed him down a 12-stair gap, and he nailed it. It was like, this is so awesome, and like, you know, like that feeling of your son, you know, facing his fear, doing something that's impossible, that's terrifying, and just going, like extreme.
Yeah.
So cool.
And it scares me a bit. Like we paddled out at Snapper, and there's this tremendous like northerly sweep, and I'll be on the board and he'll be on my back, right? And because it's a thick foamy, it's buoyant enough, and you end up getting like swept right out in the break there at Greenmount, which is the next break north. And I was like looking around, I was like, this is actually pretty hectic. Like 3 foot, and you know he's 6, so he can swim, but you know, can he hold himself in the surf? Yeah. But it was an awesome experience for him to just like watch the surfers taking off in the lineup, and we're right out. We're like, you know, 100 meters out, and managed to navigate through the sets and push him on a wave, and we walked back around the point. But it was like a point there, I was just like, holy, this is actually a bit sketchy. You know, am I being irresponsible here? But you know, he will remember that hopefully, and I'll remember that for the rest of our lives. So a lot of fun.
Yeah. What else do you do? What else are you into?
So I'm a big fan of like lateral movement activities. So surfing, skateboarding. You know, I used to skate as a kid and got back into skating as my kids have got older. So we loiter around skate parks and I think there's a real it's that dancing with the fear on a skateboard. So one of the goals that I've got that I'm working towards is dropping in on vert again.
How long since you dropped a vert ramp?
Oh, mate, since I was like 16 or something, right? You know, not big vert.
Maybe goal or something?
Yeah.
Have you got one in mind?
Yeah, there's a local one here at Varsity, and there's one there in Pizzey Park as well, at the Gold Coast.
Pizzey Park's awesome skate park.
Yeah, it is.
And the Varsity, is that the West Burleigh?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's a great park too.
Yeah, that's a big bowl.
Yeah.
So and I just find it just a tremendous analogy for life in the fact that, you know, you've really got to lean in, commit to a drop in, and it's all in, because if you half-ass it, then you're going to be, you know,
on your ass.
You literally on your ass hurting, and my body doesn't bounce back like it used to when I was 16.
Even with all the breath work and cold
that's it.
Light therapy, all the other things you're doing.
So I'm all padded up. I got my elbows and my knees and my wrist guards, and, you know, protecting the assets.
How old are you now, John? If you're happy to share.
38.
Right on.
Yeah. So we'll do a bit of skating, muck around on like a slack line. So
cool. Yeah.
Like it's funny, just people think I'm going to run away and join the circus when I put up those little videos on Instagram of me like juggling on a slack line, and I love it. It's sort of like it's almost more the meta learning skill where you look at, say, something like walking on a slack line or learning how to ride a unicycle, and you think that this is impossible. Like, you literally hop on it the first time, and you're like, this is impossible. I will never be able to do this. And then, but then it's sort of like this like stuff done consistently over time with little incremental gain steps forward will compound over time, right? And that's exactly what happened with the slack line, with the unicycle, juggling 4 balls, all that sort of stuff, right? And then you can sort of combine all the two. So, and it's ticking all the boxes because I'm out there in my bare feet, I'm getting my hippie on, I'm surrounded by nature, I've got my kids, I've got my dogs, we're down in the park, having fun, you know, and it's just like ticking all these boxes, right? This is what I call the Sunday Funday. So, yeah. So that's what I've been dabbling with. So lots of random packages from eBay showing up. Yeah.
The slack line was super challenging. I ride a unicycle as well. I haven't for years, but learned to ride a unicycle. And you're right, when you get on, this is definitely impossible, right? And then you start to figure it out. You get some, and the slack line was really challenging as well. I mean, essentially, for people who don't know, it's almost like a trucker's strap. Essentially, you put it between two big trees. Yeah. It's kind of like a tightrope, but it's not tight. It's bouncy. Yeah. And when you really concentrate, you really focus, it shakes and it goes, and you've got to actually relax and, you know, that was super challenging for me because I want to, you know, my tendency is to tense up and control things rather than relax and, you know,
sway with it.
Yeah. I'm not great at the slack line. We had a lot of practice, but I found that a long learning curve. And I can get across and back, but you know, there's guys doing flips on it and doing jumps and all kinds of like just insane, right? It's so cool.
It is good. Yeah. And it's great because you can layer all that stuff in. So if you're into backflip, you can do your backflip on it. Or, you know, I've laid in the juggling of the battens onto it just to sort of take that to the next level. So
unreal. Jon, we're almost out of time. I've got one more thing before we wrap up, and I'd love to hear just a little bit about if anyone's in business and looking for a website, what they can do, and then I've got one more question and we'll wrap up. So just tell us a little bit about the business and how we can get in touch. 5x5. What's the best way there?
Yeah, probably check out our website, fivebyfive.com.au. I'm sure you'll put the link in the show notes. Check out the sort of work that we're doing. We've got a strategy session that we run people through. We deep dive into your business, get a really good intimate understanding as to what you're all about. We put together a really comprehensive plan of attack around, you know, website architecture and SEO keyword research. And, you know, by the end of that strategy session, whether you choose to work with us or not, you've got a really clear idea as to what success would look like from a website perspective. So you've got a really, you know, clear direction in terms of what you need to head in. So that's we charge $500 plus GST for that, and deliver just a great outcome even just from that first step.
That's so valuable because as a marketing agency, people ask all the time, "Hey, can you build a website?" And I go, "Yeah, you can. What's your web strategy?" And we don't have that process in our business for going. We've got a bit of a process. But that is so valuable to come away with a real comprehensive plan. And if you're looking at building a website, it's not just, hey, I'm going to build a website, what platform I'm going to do, what content, like there's strategy to it.
Exactly.
Beautiful. So tell me, what I'd love to wrap up on is when we've covered so much cool stuff, there's all the movement stuff, there's training, there's visualization, there's breath, there's cold, there's all these crazy things you're doing, turning the lights off, and you know we've got electricity. We don't need to live in the dark ages. We've got shoes. We don't need to touch the earth.
That's it.
You know, and you're like going back to, you know, what humans have been doing on the planet for a long, long time, and running a business and being successful, and you know, sales and leadership, and running a family, and you know, being a good man. What's for you? What's the point? Like, why all the effort? Wouldn't it be so much easier just to kind of, you know, drift along and wear shoes and not get up early and not go in the cold water and not run a business and just, you know, just cruise along and take it easy? And, you know, why? What's the big driver?
I think it's just, it's every day, just being a better version of yourself, fulfilling, you know, your destiny in this world, to go out there and inspire and lead other people. So that's really ultimately what, you know, I'm trying to do in this world, through my team, through my through my family, my kids, through the greater community.
Jon, tell me, what would the world be like? What do you see is possible if you imagine everybody, like just society and culture at large, had a general practice of getting up, meditating, working out, breathing, doing the affirmations, expressing gratitude, being cold, and then getting on with stuff that they were absolutely passionate about and they loved? What kind of a world would we create? What would be possible? What do you see?
Yeah. So we look at what are the UN Sustainable Goals, and one of those, like the one that I resonate most with, is health. And they're all amazing, but health, I feel, has the most ability to make practical change in the world. So I was sitting on the train home last night, and there was a youngish sort of kid. He's 17 years old, sitting in the seat opposite me, and he started having this big Barney on the phone, and he was cursing and he was swearing, and I was sitting there on my laptop, and I piped up and I said, "Mate, watch your language. I don't want to hear your argument. Go somewhere else." And then he finished his call, and he then sort of had a go at me. He's like, "Don't you effing tell me what to do and say," and all that sort of stuff. And I could see there was some real hurt and pain in his eyes.
Sure.
And I softened, and I thought, oh, it probably wasn't the right thing to say. And, I'd had a big day and I was a bit cranky. And I said, you're right, mate. And he's like, no, I don't want to talk about it, and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, getting this big D&M, and he wasn't in a great space. His parents had just separated. He was in a job that you think he's going to get fired from. His mother's got health issues. He's trying to buy a car, and so he can commute up to his new job in Brisbane that he hates, and all that sort of stuff. And it was just, I was reflecting on it, and it had quite a profound impact on me, that you never know where people's heads are at. But what is the one thing that you can control, and that is, your reaction or your state to where you're at in this world, and whether you feel like it or not. By making that change and that impact every morning on yourself, you can actually go out and be a better human being, that you can affect other people, that you can invest in your health so you're around for a long time to come. And then you can just be a generally just better, more chilled, relaxed individual that can roll with stuff rather than reacting, getting angry, stressed, all that sort of stuff. So that's a very long-winded answer, but I truly believe that you can control that and do amazing things out there. So
Beautiful. Jon Hollenberg, thank you so much for sharing. I super appreciate this time together.
I've
learned a lot, and it's been great to connect, and super excited to see what comes next. Blessings, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
See you soon.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.